Something that I can't explain.
She has an inner energy that it's like a flame that never ever goes out.
She's tenacious, she's focused, talented, shrewd.
Adventurous but conservative, passionate, focused.
Embodies the word brilliant.
The most selfless human being I've encountered, the most open human being I've encountered, and the most giving with her resources.
Loving, a parent, a leader.
She's just hungry to know more, to be able to do more.
Crazy, fun.
She's blind, did I mention that? That's the one thing, she can't have everything. So whatever they gave her when she was born, they just said, but you're gonna have to wear contact lenses. And if she doesn't wear them, you better have a very, very big teleprompter. It's gotta be huge.
I had a baby recently and I went to a function heavily pregnant with Mendoza. Everybody knows Mendoza, right? Next day in the U magazine and its sister Drum, it said, Krijay Govender pregnant, could Mendoza be the father?
I'm Krijay Govender. I've always been a Govender. I was born a Govender, apparently from the Govender family. And then I married a Govender just to keep the surname. It had nothing to do with love. And then I'm also a television director, a comedian, an actress, an MC, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a proud South African. I don't think I've made it yet. I think anyone in the industry will tell you that once you think you've arrived, you've actually failed. So I think hard work pays off. I'm a strong believer in hard work, putting in your hours, paying your dues, all those generally cliched things, they have a lot of meaning to them. I worry about the perception of the industry, particularly with young people, and I probably get an email every second or third day saying, I want to be in the industry and I want to be famous, and I cringe. Because the fame, you've probably heard this a lot, fame is not real, it doesn't last. You've really just got to love entertaining people. And if that is your passion, entertaining people, whether it's behind the camera or in front of the camera, and if you want to be a creative in that way, then I would suggest this industry.
The first time I met Krijay was in the makeup room at Isidingo. That was the first time I actually met her. We were looking for an actress that we felt would embody or would be able to represent those ideas very well. She needed to be a soap star. Well, we immediately thought female. She needed to have that kind of beauty, but she needed also inherent intelligence and inherent authority.
I think she saw a performer, and I think it was also a time where Isidingo was doing very wonderful, challenging stories, and also doing very representational stories in South Africa.
Of everyone that auditioned for the part, Krijay jumped out because she, not only did she capture all those things, but that internal curiosity that she always carries with her in whatever part she does, and always with a kind of a tongue-in-cheek sense of humor.
I had a character called Hamali, who played the love interest of Rajesh, Jack Devnarine. Who hasn't been the love interest of Jack Devnarine on that show? And I remember it being very, very daunting for me because I was firstly new at television, and secondly, there was the first kiss between two Indian people on TV. And I remember the media at the time hyping that up. So what was perfectly normal in every soap with two actors kissing became quite a big thing.
You know, at some point, one of us is going to have to make a move here.
And I do remember asking my mom to trip the electricity at home so that my dad couldn't watch it. because, you know, my dad knew that I never kissed anyone before that or after that. Well, I studied directing, but obviously directing performances, and I spent time in the control room, the box, when I was an actress. And I thought, oh, this is very interesting. And I spent more time and started asking questions. And there was somebody that was being trained, and I asked if I could sit in on his training, and that's how it started.
Directing allowed her to explore telling the story rather than being the story. She has that humility that she's always hungry to understand more, take more, and that I think makes her a great director.
Everybody downplays an award, and so do I. I think it's a way in which it's a mechanism to help you deal with rejection. So everybody says, oh, awards are not important. But it really, really feels very exciting to win an award. You feel very excited to have people in your industry acknowledge you, because the public acknowledges you, and you know your mother always thinks that you're the best thing, and your parents do. But to have people in the industry and people that you look up to and admire say, we see your work as well, is probably the best part of it.
I was 2 weeks late, 2 weeks late. Half black, half Indian child, they wouldn't know whether it's striking or meditating.
I've always been an entertainer. My first job was a clown, and I've worked as a clown, well, I still do, so as a comedian. But I started working as a clown at age 10 at kiddies' parties. So I've always been very, very comfortable in front of audiences. When I was in Derbs, John Flismus said to me, and he saw me a few times, and he said, Krijay, you need to come up to Joburg. And he gave me my first opportunity in comedy. I think it was the Lourdes Award. He was performing, and he was like, you've just got to come and do a comedy set up there.
What struck me was that she was one of the very early on strong female comics. And now, of course, it's progressed, so you don't really see people as having a gender.
And so he's been very, very good, not just for me, but for many comedians. Just to say to us, you know, you need to look at this as a business, you need to look at this as a career, as a profession, and just being a very, very substantial leading figure in comedy in South Africa. I don't think you can talk about South African comedy without John Flismus.
Krijay was she was a forerunner for that sort of movement of strong women on stage. She had the guts. And obviously the timing and her ability as an actor always informs her stand-up. So her character work is detailed, her timing is good.
Also now, as you get older, I don't think it's a natural curbing of what you find funny. And I do find that the older I get, I do get a little bit more conservative, and that's because I'm bringing up kids.
We met when we were in Standard 5, or grade 7 for those that can't relate. We actually met in a debate, and that's sort of set the path for the rest of our lives.
It was the regional finals in KwaZulu-Natal, and we won, and I've been winning the debates ever since. And so we've always had a very competitive relationship. It's been very odd because we are very competitive with each other, but at the same time very supportive of each other. We didn't date then, we only started dating sometime at university. But the strange thing was everybody knew we were going to end up together. So when we did make the announcement that we were getting married, I mean, it just was such an anticlimax because everyone said, oh, it's about time.
You know, coming from a typical conservative home, when I met Krijay, I was blown away. She was somebody that just challenged the norms. She was somebody that wanted to go on adventures. She wanted to do different things. So for me, I found this very attractive and very exciting.
The constant struggle for any working mother is the struggle between the guilt of not being a full-time mom, watching full-time moms operate and going, wow. But then on the other hand, watching people at work and going equally, wow. So to make it work, you've got to actually be wow at both of it, and you can't do it alone.
I guess, Krijay strongly believes that there's no such thing as balance. You find balance yourself based on time available. When you've got to do something and you've got to get it done, you must be focused, but you bring it back by making time for family, for ourselves, when the time is available.
I've learned more about directing from children than I have from books and from study, because I've learned that the way in which you speak to children, and I've got 3 of them, you've got to speak to them very differently to get something out of them, to get to respond. In the same way, I was like, okay, if this works with the kids, I can apply this to actors. And you do speak differently to different actors to get a better performance from them. I was a real good girl when it came to, school and those sort of things, and played by the rules there. But as soon as the bell rang, I was something else. And I stole my parents' cars when I shouldn't have, and I wrote off 3 vehicles before one should drive. But it was all in the neighborhood, and nobody else got hurt except probably my parents' pockets. I always had a fascination with cars, and I loved them because they could go so fast, and you could get to places without walking. So
Krijay's always loved driving, though. I guess back in the day when we were younger, she was a bit more adventurous with her driving. In fact, one day I remember her knocking into a stay wire and snapped a light pole in half. It was a very interesting morning, to say the least.
I was looking for a new car. I needed to get a new car. My car was falling apart. And I found it very interesting that there was nowhere I could go to ask people just really simple questions about the cars, because the dealerships, I felt, were always selling you their cars. And I was also very nervous of being judged for the silly questions that I had, and I wanted to hear from other people. So I was phoning up friends that owned a car or a similar car, and I said, listen, tell me a little bit about this car. And then the idea of TripAdvisor for cars came up, and I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to have a website that you could go to, sort of like a TripAdvisor for cars, and you could read people's reviews on why you should buy this car or not. And so it's just layman's language, and there was a degree of anonymity to it when you're checking up on a car, and it's unbiased. That's where AutoAdvisor was started, and then I was lucky enough to find a young man that was very, very technical, and he understood websites and all of that, and so we both decided to come together. He's far more business-minded than I am.
Krijay helps us take the interaction on the website and enhance the user experience and the journey for the consumer. She's always challenging us and pushing us to the next level to ensure that we constantly working on the product and developing it in a very simple to ensure that we have a very simple user experience. We're very technical, and Krijay is very creative and outgoing. So we got a good mix of the two, and she knows how to bring a message from the technical and translate it into simple English that everybody understands.
I'm hoping that it would become as large as a TripAdvisor or other online businesses that have communities and that have the online community supporting it. So that's where I hope it would go to. When I am with my family, I just love the private space, and then I also have lots and lots of friends who love to come over and stay over, and lots of family from Durbs. And I thought, well, when they're here, wouldn't it be great if they could have their own space? Okay, so this is what I consider my 4th child, because I gave birth to this. And no husband can take credit for the construction of this, because this was my project. It's for friends in the industry, for families, obviously, and eventually for parents that might want to come and move up to stay with us. But at the moment, there's a lot of actors that come and stay over. So it's not a B&B or anything like that yet, but this is a project that I've really enjoyed and did myself from scratch, so I'm so proud of it. And I'm very proud of these ceilings, okay, which give it a great sense of volume and space, because so many people fought me on it.
builders fought me on it. My husband fought me on it. Divorce lawyers were involved because of these ceilings. And I believe that ceilings are for rats. So I do like exposed beams. And now that it's up, it's exposed and everybody likes it.
Krijay has always dreamt of building an additional cottage on our property. And she does come up with great ideas, but sometimes the execution is left for me. I must say on this project, she took the full reins, she ran with it, she got into the bucky, she got into overalls, and she really worked through this project. And it turned out into a beautiful creation.
Okay, this is a study, and a lot of friends and husband said, why does a cottage need a study? But I think it's ridiculous at this day and age when all of us spend so much time online and on computers not to have a space. But you also want it to be a space that's open, and that was when the idea of the windows came in, or these, so that it was almost completely glass and people could see that you were really studying or really working in it. But also you need the privacy of quietness, which is why glass works. This is a marriage test, and I heard rumors, and I heard people saying that if you're building or moving, that's a big test of your marriage. It really is, and it took him as long as the project, and after many friends said, well done, he eventually came out and said, well done, baby. And that was far more powerful than when he said, I do or I love you. Just well done on the cottage. That's all I wanted to hear. I had a moment where I thought, this is it. This is what I was meant to do. I enjoyed hanging out with other construction workers. And then reality hit, and I realized when it's over, like any project, I mourned not hanging out with construction workers, and then realized, let me rather stick to television.
Please, rolling. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Okay, great. Welcome to Thandeka's Diary. It's a sitcom. It's a great team because we've got a lot of old established actors, some theatre actors, some guys that have never done TV before, and some very young, fresh talent. And every now and then as guest artists, we get phenomenal talent that has never been seen before. It's about a Zulu family, actually their surname is Zulu, and how they cope with their children being at school. And now Thandeka is now transitioning to university. Very wonderful, and one of the reasons I'm attracted to it so much is because South African stories, particularly South African black stories, are always political, and this is just a family being a family. Why don't you ask for where's your drink?
Boy. What's up?
Okay, and then this needs to come up because I need to see you. Right.
Boy.
Right. Let's take it from the top, guys.
I think what makes Krijay a good director is how she conducts the whole thing.
Okay, action.
She gives you a room to be yourself. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm not an actor. I'm really not an actor. In fact, I'm the worst actor in the world.
This is what I wanted. I wanted this one to have that much. Then you can say it's not even finished. Oh. And he's bringing more. Okay.
She gives us a lot of freedom. She trusts her actors.
So I bake alone.
It's not like I'm confined into a space where you just need to follow your lines. You must know your lines now.
So, when you'll get the new bottle.
Aha! Some for my eyes.
Right. So the floor is where we direct actors, and then we come to this place, which is called the control room. I like to call it the box, because that's what it is, and we've got 3 cameras. And I'm very blessed on this particular show to have an all-female team in the box, and then lighting on my left and sound on my right. Hey, girls. Hey. Punch in camera 3.
I was a director's assistant at Mubango. So I just recently moved and I became a director's assistant to the directors there. And they had 4 directors. Krijay was one of the 4 directors.
As soon as somebody says, I love you in comedy,
as opposed to you guys go closer, we punch out, because we don't want you to get emotionally involved unless the episode is about love. I think I was very fortunate myself to have very kind people train me. So on the one hand, I feel it a natural responsibility to train others, because that's how I learned.
I like her style of directing because she's lack of a better word, she's loose with her directing. She's not this rigid kind of a director.
You gotta start, but then turn it around and go, it's raining, it's raining.
She let the actors also interact with her and tell the story how they see it, and then they meet as director and actor to make it work.
Oh,
no
yeah. Oh, no story at all.
No stories, yes.
Oh, ma'am. Mana, we did it before the lady. Mana,
everyone.
Manani, umfungutshela ukuthi imvuliyana.
That's it. I think everyone's gonna ask. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe there's such a thing as raw talent, or even when you are discovered, you do need a little bit of training. So I'm a big believer in training and learning.
The trick to play drunk is to play sober.
What you just said is the most traumatizing.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. If you say I'm gonna play a drunk, right? Then you think of playing all the drunk things.
Yes.
What you need to do is say I'm gonna play a drunk trying to be sober. Then the drunk becomes more convincing. There is a script, but we also improvise a lot around it. We are given some leeway to improvise, and that makes actors very excited.
Isaac!
Can it be like I'm going with them on the shoot?
The way in which I bring my comedy into it is not necessarily enforcing my comedy, but enforcing the structure of comedy. So in making sure we end on a laugh, making sure that if a joke is sort of halfway, we get it to go, ha ha! Let's round up that other joke. Tonight, Tilla, tonight you can be Zandile, her, and I will be Philemon. But get a little bit upset about that, right? Comedy is about entrances and exits and quick cuts. And so just to keep that tempo and pace up. Okay, let's hold on. Let's go for the previous shot because it's funnier. And let's end on a big laugh. I think what drives me is, no, I think it's a stupid joke. Leave it, I'll start again. I always like to do something new, and I'm probably the person that gets bored with myself first. All right, let's shoot it.
She's gonna do this until she's 80. No, at 80 she will be blind.
I used to be very blind, but now I can see.
63. And then she'll be done. And then go to India, and then give us the land back, and then halal. I'm joking, man.
So that I don't sink into some deep, dark depression, I constantly challenge myself, because I think in my 20s, I was very, very driven to just to be it and to be on top of everything. And now the filters have changed, and it's driven, yes, to make it, yes, but am I adding some sort of value? And cut, we got it. Thank you.